What's up, everybody, and welcome into the Liquid Trucking Podcast. I am your host, Marcus. Thank you so much for being here with me today for our annual hunting episode. Always so exciting about this. And you know what? Let's just call it our outdoor recreation episode. It's around late fall. Of course, hunting season is in the windshield. We're all seeing it. If you know a hunter, you know, because he'll be the one jumping from foot to foot with anticipation. But you know, I will be honest with you guys here. I struck out when it came to getting drivers on this show, and I'm not 100% sure why, but I need you guys to tell me. You'll go ahead and send me a text if you've got my phone number, or hit me in the email, podcast@liquidtrucking.com. I didn't have any luck getting drivers on this episode this year, and I want to know why. Is there something different we could be doing? Would you like us to take our hunting episode in a different direction rather than just telling hunting stories and talking about what tags you got and what hunts you're going to go on, talking about the hardware you're using? We can take it in a different direction. If you want to have some debates about different hunting practices, you know, what's better, rifle or archery, whitetail or mule deer, blacktail, Rocky Mountain elk or Roosevelt elk. There's 1,000 different things and ways we can take this. Hey, waterfowl or upland game bird, hunting versus fishing. I would love to have all these conversations with you guys. But we also want to make sure that this is a show that you guys enjoy and you guys are a part of. And I wasn't actually able to make that happen today, and I'm a little bit upset with myself, to be honest with you, but I was able to pull together some stuff to talk about today that I think is going to keep you guys entertained. And if you are a hunter, a fisherman, an outdoor recreationalist, a target shooter, or just somebody that likes to hear about wildlife and wildlife management in general, I think you're going to really like this week's episode. Coming up here in just a little bit after a few, I guess, hunting-related news articles, if you will, we're going to talk to a wildlife biologist, and I got my hooks in him for a while, and you'll find out why coming up here in just a few minutes. But first, I want to take you to this really cool story happened just right at the beginning of September. You know, there's that one time in all of our lives, if we're hunters or fishermen, that the thing happened and it clicked and we knew I'm probably going to do this for the rest of my life. It was different for everybody. Okay. For me, that you might think because of all the elk hunting that I do, I'm out there every single year. You know, the deer hunting, I went on an antelope hunt last year. You might hear this and think, oh, this guy's got a deer hunting story that absolutely sold him. And I'll be honest with you, it wasn't that. I actually kind of stumbled through my start as a deer hunter. The first shot I ever took clean blew off one side of an antler on a little 3-point, and I still have that one side. I think it's in my dad's garage somewhere. But it was a bad start, okay? And it was a little frustrating. The second shot did take down the deer, but I was pretty bummed out. You know, you're 13 years old or whatever, you go back to school in a small rural farming community like I grew up in. Everybody the next day is talking about their hunt and what they got or what their dad or their uncle or their cousin, their hunting party got. And there's all these pictures floating around. You don't think there was any pictures of my deer in there that day? No, because I blew half of the rack off. And that's not the only reason I go hunting. I don't go hunting just to have something on the wall. That deer ate the exact same that it would have if I'd have made a clean shot the first time. But that wasn't the experience that really sold me on hunting. My first experience that sold me on hunting was a very cold, snowy winter day where my dad and I stalked up to a pond that he used to go out and shoot geese at. The pond was sort of frozen over that day. It wasn't really the best conditions for us to sneak up on these things. The snow was a little bit loud. But they stayed right there, and I poked my 20 gauge through the bushes and fell my very first Canadian goose. And let me tell you, it was the first of many. A lot of people that hunt waterfowl, ducks and geese, will tell you, oh, I killed 20, 30 ducks before I ever sniffed a goose. I don't think I killed a duck for 2 years after I killed that first goose. My dad and I just went all in on the geese hunting, and obviously because of where we were at right on the flight path, kind of a rural part of Oregon, lots of farm fields out there, lots of farmers that would gladly have you scare geese off their property. we were always in them. But there was that first one that I remember, the feeling that came over my entire body was just something that locked it in forever. And even though the waterfowl hunting is the thing I get to do the least of these days in my life, it's still one of the most special things to me. And I'll remember it forever. I'll remember the end of that story as we're walking away from the pond. We struck out on the rest of the hunt. We stuck around for a little bit. Nothing was circling. Nothing was coming back. We were going to go check one of our other hot spots. So my dad said, well, you need to grab that goose. That's your kill. So you got to pack it out. And it was a pretty big goose. In fact, it being my very first one, my dad went ahead and had it mounted for me. So I've got the taxidermy of this Canadian goose with a little plaque on it that says it was my first one. It's a really cool keepsake. But as I was walking with it, I was holding it by the head and I had it slung over my back. And if you don't know this because you haven't experienced it, it's a very real thing. But as you're walking, you're bouncing up and down. Some air sometimes gets into the body cavity of the animal. And I stepped over a log and kind of had a bounce. And that thing actually honked right in my ear because I was holding the head right next to my ear over my shoulder, like I said. And needless to say, Dad packed that goose out the rest of the way because not only did I drop it and flee, I was back at the truck waiting for him by the time he figured out what was going on. So, little funny story there, but there's that moment. And I want you guys during this next story to think about what your moment was and email me with your moment or shoot me a text with your moment. When did you know I'm going to be a hunter or a fisherman or an outdoor recreationalist for the rest of my life? This is the only feeling I want. Let me take you out to New England, Hampton, New England, actually, just back at the very first of September. Jackson Denio is a 13-year-old from Hampton, New Hampshire, and he was fishing about 100 miles off the New England coast on Cassius Ledge when he all of the sudden got a hit on his fishing pole. Denio says, I think I screamed honestly. He had set out Sunday with about 30 others on an overnight charter trip with Al Garen's deep sea fishing and whale watching. After everyone had caught plenty of pollock and other fish, Denio told the crew he wanted to catch a shark. They told him, fish at the bottom. Minutes later, he dropped his hook with a pollock on it, and he got a hit and knew that he had something big. Denio fought the fish for about 30 minutes, bringing it near the boat, only to have it dive back down. He was eventually able to get the fish to the surface, guided by the crew and cheered on by fellow passengers who uttered plenty of oohs and ahs, spiced with some profanity as the size of the fish became clear. That's when you know you got a lunker on, right? Is when somebody starts spouting out four-letter words. We did something right here. When he pulled this thing out, what he had was not a shark. In fact, something I think much more valuable to come out of the bottom of the ocean if you're on one of these fishing trips, and that was a 177-pound Atlantic halibut. Good Lord, one of the most delectable fishes out there. I don't know, fishes? That one kind of came out weird, but halibut, I mean, oh, come on. You ever get like that good halibut and chips? Like the good beer battered with the thick, it's like almost more batter than it is fish, but when you bite into it, you get that like meaty kind of, it's a little bit flaky for sure, but it's like, oh, God, it's so good. I want to go eat some halibut and chips later today now that I've been talking about this. But back to Denio, he's actually submitted this fish to the Guinness Book of World Records. And also, he's got a pretty good shot at getting it because the youth male record for basically any fish, which is what this certain category would be, it doesn't have anybody in it right now. And so I would think that Denio is going to make the grade. He's going to crack the list here with 177 goddamn pound halibut. You take that thing to market and sell it, you're going to be impressed at what you go home with. But I think that what they did here, they took a lot of pictures, they weighed the thing, they got all the paperwork submitted, and then they chopped this thing into steaks, and they're going to go home and eat on it for a good long period of time. Hell of a story there. You know that Denio is going to be a fisherman for the rest of his life. There's not many better ways to start. If you're going to start out on a hobby, catching a world record's a real good way to get yourself deep into that hobby. So congratulations to him. And I would like you guys to send me your stories. When did you know, as you listen to my conversation here with the wildlife biologist coming up, when did you know that you were going to be a hunter or a fisherman for the rest of your life? When did it click? Tell me the story. I'd love to read them here on the air, or just hear them. If you don't want it told on the air, that's fine too. But send them over to me, podcast@liquidtrucking.com, or shoot me a text or give me a call, because those are some of my favorite stories. Moving on here, we've got a great interview coming up here with a wildlife biologist. And since I'll cover the reason why I was able to score this interview right off the top, I'm not going to give anything else away. I'm going to tell you, if you are an outdoor recreationalist, this conversation is going to cover some bases that you're really going to want to listen to. It's informative, and just in case you and Dwight Schrute from The Office have similar proclivities, we will tell you how to become BearWise in this next segment here. So lots of great information coming up with a wildlife biologist here on our hunting episode on the Liquid Trucking Podcast. Stick around.
Welcome to the gold standard of podcasts for the gold standard of drivers. This is the Liquid Trucking Podcast with your host, Marcus Bridges.
Welcome back into the Liquid Trucking Podcast. Very excited for our next guest here joining us today for a multitude of reasons. It's our annual hunting episode, and I'll be honest with you guys, I had no luck getting you drivers talked into coming on here to share about the upcoming hunts this year. I'm thinking maybe I blew up some of your spots. Maybe I gave out too much information on the air last year, but I wanted to fill this time with somebody that could bring us a lot of expertise in the space. And our next guest joining us here on the Liquid Trucking Podcast today shares a last name with me. He is my cousin. He's a longtime hunting buddy of mine ever since I was too young to carry a gun. And he is also a wildlife biologist. So please welcome to the Liquid Trucking Podcast, Joe Bridges. Joe, always great to get to catch up with you, man. Thank you so much for the time here today.
Thanks, Mark. It's nice to be here.
Well, listen, I get to talk to you all the time. I'm constantly chewing your ear. Whenever we're together on some type of hunting excursion, you and I sit down over a beer, and typically we end up having these kind of rabbit hole discussions about all things hunting, outdoors, biology, whatever it may be. So I felt like you were the perfect candidate today. Now that people know why we share a last name, yes, we're cousins, our dads are brothers, let's get that all behind us. What does a day in the life of a wildlife biologist really consist of, Joe?
Well, I'll speak about it from my perspective. I'm up in the state of Washington, and I deal with a lot of conflict resolution when deer and elk get into agriculture. And so it is a interesting topic in and of itself, but I've also been a wildlife biologist for over 20 years, worked for a few different agencies. And I think that being a hunter for as long as I have been, and it's the reason why I became a biologist, I've thought about this from every angle, from the biologist perspective and the hunter perspective as well on this. And it's just been a kind of an interesting adventure for a career so far.
Do you find that because of your love for hunting and the outdoors that you don't really feel like you're working when you're out there? You kind of just feel like you're getting to enjoy the job?
Well, that's one topic that I was going to bring up is I went to college to get away from humans at the age of 20, and because just wasn't fitting in well, and I figured, well, I'll go do wildlife biology and I won't have to work with humans. And the reality of that is that I work with humans 99% of the time, and I work with animals 1% of the time. Really, what I do is I'm kind of like the referee between humans and wildlife when it comes to their interactions in everyday life. If I'm really boiling the whole cow down to one bouillon cube.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. I've not heard it mentioned like that before. I like it. So, talk to me a little bit then. When we were talking before we came on the air, you were telling me a little bit about the interesting sides of how these departments are organized, and that there's a lot of diversity in them, and a lot of times there's some misconceptions by the public about the way that your department is organized. Can you talk to me a little bit about that and just kind of tell me about the structure that you work in?
Yeah, when I went to college, I really didn't have an understanding of how the departments were structured. I thought I was just going to be a district biologist, like what everybody thinks every wildlife biologist is.
Hmm.
But I've really come to find over time working within the departments, the diversity that is there that we have. Like, if you take it at the very core, biologists are separated between fisheries and then wildlife. That's the first big split. But then when we get into the wildlife side of things, we have research and then what is management. So research goes out and does all the studies and so forth. And then management kind of implements those studies and deals with the public and the hunting processes and so forth. But that's where the similarities really start to break down. You've got biologists, and the best way I can put this is if you're a human and you broke your foot while motorcycle riding, you wouldn't go to a dentist just because he's a doctor, you know?
Right, right.
And so the reality is that there are some species that are so big and so politicized that one individual will need to hold that whole position within the department, just like cougar or bear or something like that.
Hmm.
And then all the way down to animals like grouse. There are individuals out there that are so specialized and wound down just right to the grouse level, and we need those individuals out there. But here's another thing that I wanted to talk about. The structure of the department is I can't do my job unless there's the IT individuals ready to help me with my problems. I can't do my job unless there's front office staff helping with these things. We have lawyers that work for the department, and we have real estate agents that go and work out the deals when we're buying stuff. And when you think about it too, we have job opportunities where like wildlife area managers need to be more like farmers than biologists, but they're both accomplishing the same goal.
Hmm.
And so there's a wide variety of individuals that are out there. And so even though I'm hearing at least single species biologists, but there's a reason for that. And there's a reason why a doctor is all the way screwed down to just the ear, nose, and throat, because it takes that much time. And so
Hmm.
that's very interesting as I've come through my career and then continuing my career is just seeing what it really takes to make a department run efficiently.
Absolutely. Lots of moving parts there, and that is so interesting to me, the diversity there. You could have bet me thousands of dollars, Joe, and said, "I bet you there's a real estate agent that works for the department," and I would have told you there's no way, and I would have owed you all that money. So I appreciate that insight because a lot of times I think that people that take advantage of things like, hunting programs and basically wildlife that are managed in a way that we can go out there and enjoy and maybe tag one and fill the freezer. We don't really stop to think about all of the processes that go into actually making that hunt happen and doing it in a way that's sustainable so that next year we can hunt in the same place and the population stays healthy and we don't totally wipe it off the map. Yes, biologists are a huge part of that, but there's a lot of other moving parts in that clock is kind of what I'm getting here.
Yeah, and I've really, over the last 3 years, really started to rely on our public communications. It's becoming a very effective tool for me to get it out in a different way because I'm finding out that as a biologist, I know biology really well, but I don't know how to get it out to the public like you do, per se. And
Have you ever
so,
thought about just never shutting up, Joe? That's all I've done, and I made a career out of it.
yeah, I'm a guy that would rather write than talk.
I hear you. I hear you. Well, it's interesting because, you think about different other services that are provided in one way or the other in society. For instance, I when I worked in radio, I was doing a lot of news and I had a daily call with the public information officer from the Eugene Police Department.
Yeah.
And it was just scheduled so she could tell me all the things that they were working on so I didn't bug detectives and sergeants and captains and the rest of it. And that was her whole job. And a lot of times I found like I would apologize to her for bugging her, and she would be like, "I'm just sitting here waiting for people like you to call me." That was her whole gig. Sounds like maybe you could make use of that type of public communication person that is really specializes in things like press conferences and social media.
Yeah, it really has been it's been a big game changer for trying to distribute BearWise information and just let the public know what's going on. It kind of makes me feel like a little bit of an Elmer Fudd in a way, but it is what it is, you know?
We're all getting older, man. It's just the way it's gonna go. But yeah, that's interesting. You mentioned BearWise. I want to take some time to talk about that because some people might have heard you say that and not know exactly what you're talking about. So, talk to me about BearWise. Just fill me in here because I know that this is also a message that you're trying to get out.
Yeah, so BearWise is this group. Go to bearwise.org, and all state departments have agreed that this is the message that we want to send out to the public to keep a universal standard of what's going out there into the public. Okay. So it's come up with very hands-on tools for how to become BearWise, which is making sure how to secure your garbage correctly, just being aware of how much a bear gets in calories from a bird seed feeder. It's pretty impressive, you know.
I bet. Yeah.
And then they have this focus on trying to work with communities to become more bear wise. And that I've been learning over time is becoming a very valuable tool. It gives a direction for communities and individuals to go. And it's been consistent no matter where you go across any state. It's been really impressive working with that group as well, you know. And so it's just an interesting topic to bring up. It's a way where they're distributing information. Most people don't know that they can get bear resistant 96-gallon totes from Waste Management. People don't know that just because you have a plastic lid with a metal bar across the dumpster, that's not making it bear resistant. You know, you need a
Right.
metal lid on there. And there's a good video out there of a high school principal going to unlock the dumpster one morning as he's going in right as a black bear is coming out and running out of that dumpster, you know. And that's kind of like what BearWise is trying to prevent, is provide the information and education to individuals to where they have the resources for where they can go and have these kinds of discussions, you know.
Yeah, and what the video doesn't show is the ring that that guy peed around himself as he reached for that dumpster, I'm sure, but, it is something that I think where we're located here in the Pacific Northwest and down into California, the black bears are a concern, and I know we're talking to a lot of you guys that are living in the Midwest on this podcast, but a lot of you also drive around, you end up stopped in different places, maybe you got your grill out and you're barbecuing a little bit, and kind of a rural truck stop or maybe a rural rest stop, this could totally be something that you could benefit from learning a little bit about because listen, there's some places where you can live in the Pacific Northwest, you will never see a bear. There's other places up here where we're from where they're like raccoons. People are seeing them all the time right in town and getting into their trash and stuff. So this is important information, Joe, especially considering where you're at on the map.
Yeah. It's, in Florida, they deal with it, in British Columbia. It's a universal problem. And as a young buck, I thought that you could train the bear to just not do this. But really what it is there's a resource of food out there that's easy to eat. They're going to go and eat it. And so it's not a bear problem. It ends up being a human problem. And if we can kind of take these measures to clean things up, on the landscape, it just makes life a lot easier for wildlife biologists across the board because removing and trapping black bears is never fun.
Sure, sure. And you've told me some of those stories, some of the just the anecdotes that I've heard of, trapping and removing bears. Wow. I'll just put it that way. It's quite theatric, really. I mean, not what you guys are doing, but just the scope of it all and what you guys have to go through to actually remove an animal that big safely. Obviously, we're trying to do this all safely, not only for the animal, but for you guys out there doing the work. Check out bearwise.org. It's a great website. You can learn a lot there. And if you're interested in the different ways that you can help kind of bear proof the area, it's definitely a great resource for you. And you'll help guys like Joe out, right? They don't want to come have to get a bear out of your garage any more than you want them to have to come get a bear out of your garage. Am I on track there?
Yeah, that's exactly it. So,
Very cool. Well, there's a question that I think that I ask you, Joe, probably just about every time we get together and enjoy one of these conversations. And I know that it's a very broad question, but I think that a lot of my hunters out there would identify with it and really resonate with it. So, in general, as a hunter, how can I positively impact a game population that I fear is in jeopardy? I'll give you just a for instance here. Back home where I'm from, and you know about this because we've talked about it, and my dad's chewed your ear about it as well. I grew up only seeing mule deer. You had to work really, really hard to find a whitetail, and normally it was running away from you 300 yards up over a hill. Uh, Fast forward, I'm 41 years old today, and it's hard to find a mule deer in the exact same county. The whitetails have just kind of taken over. And I wonder, was there anything I can do as a local hunter there that might help somebody like you in spurring this kind of die off or take over of the whitetail population from the mule deer population? Really kind of convoluted, for instance, there, but tell me what I can do here. How can I help?
well, it's interesting, because a lot of the studies are starting to find that mule deer are acting more like mule deer and white-tailed deer are acting more like white-tailed deer now. And what I mean by that is that mule deer are more being found back on the slopes and rougher treed terrain, and white-tailed deer typically are in those flat, more wanting open plains. And so I think that this is just an inevitable switch because, and no expert here, just thinking off the top of with experience, but I've kind of witnessed when like a big freeze out comes along, the mule deer have a harder time coming back from it than white-tailed deer. And I would believe that it appears to me that white-tailed deer seem to tolerate human presence a little bit better than mule deer. So, and you can see that if you go, well, they're wanting to go back up into that timber. And so when you do that, and then you look at the future of, and I'm guilty of it too. I have a house that sits right on mule deer winter range. I got 0.22 acres fully developed. But it just seems like as this development process continues to go down its eventual path, that white-tailed deer will be more able to deal with
Adapt.
those,
Yeah.
deal with those stressors more than mule deer will.
Interesting.
But that doesn't mean that mule deer are not dear to my heart. You know what I
Sure.
mean? Yeah.
Absolutely.
But then
Absolutely. I mean, we grew up hunting them, right? You guys would come all the way over from the other side of the state to hunt some of the mule deer and kind of, of course you hunted a lot of blacktail on this side of the mountain, but those mule deer hunts, those are some cherished memories of mine. And we've got some really nice mule deer on the wall. It used to kind of be where we could go out there and take our pick. We were passing bucks up. Nowadays, if I see a mule deer buck, if it's a legal buck, I'm going to shoot it if I have a good ethical shot because I don't know if I'll ever get a chance to take another one. I mean, the guys in the Midwest won't believe this, but I'm kind of a whitetail hunter now. And I don't even know that I believe it, Joe, but it's very interesting to hear that because that is actually your kind of off the top of your head reasoning there goes in contrast to what I've always known about whitetail in my environment and mule deer in my environment. The mule deer walk around town. They're in the Safeway parking lot. And as I said, if you got within a sniffing distance of a whitetail, it was hightailing it out of there. It's just been switched, man. The whitetail are grazing in my parents' lawn almost every morning now. So it's pretty wild. But getting back to the original question there, is my purchase of tags, my purchase of licensing, any donation that I do, does it actually go to kind of help this type of stuff? I'm sure you can't speak for every state and every organization, but is that the best way I can go about just trying to support the conservation of these populations?
Yeah, honestly, it's still the best model out there, the North American model for hunting conservation. Show me a better model that's out there and I'll look at it, but it hasn't been presented in the world.
Hmm.
And so other countries and continents have been implementing that model and it's helping. And so, um, some of the things that positively impact a game population that's in jeopardy kind of on 5,000-foot view, it takes a lot of money,
Hmm.
first and foremost. Nobody's going to do anything for free. Um, and you'll see in like the market hunting era, animals and wildlife were not allowed on the landscape. Now, wildlife is allowed on the landscape in certain areas, more tolerable than they were 100 years ago. And so humans have to allow wildlife to exist because we never do studies to figure out why a population is doing well. We only do studies to find out why populations are doing poorly.
Hmm.
And then to get the money to get it funded, and then to get everything in the studies done, and then put the science out there. And then all the scientists argue about the science for a few years. And then we somehow come to an agreement. But another thing is the public has to learn to trust scientists. And
Hmm.
that's very hard right now. And I get it. I fully get it. Everybody's fully aware of plate tectonics and what that does. It's taught to us in middle school. But that theory was first put out about 150 years ago. So that when I learned that, it really put it into perspective of just how long it takes for change to happen.
Hmm.
If we were to look at salmon, and this will be kind of controversial, and I'm not doing it to ruffle anybody's feathers, but would a conservation group or the whole group say, Columbia River, we just have salmon, no more fishing, not even out in the ocean, and we just wait till the populations get back to what they were at some point in time that society agrees, and bringing them from 20 million to 200 million, say, whatever society wants. Would society be willing to not harvest those salmon? And I think the question is half would say yes and the other half would say no.
Yeah,
And that's part
I
of being
think
a biologist and putting the information out there, because really what it is humans have to allow the animals to exist on the landscape.
Yeah, no, it's a really good point. I think about it from the perspective of a fisherman that, maybe not even a commercial fisherman, just a guy that really loves going out and spending his time on the Columbia River fishing for salmon. I think he might tell you, yeah, because I don't want to lose this privilege. This is something I want to share with my kids and my grandkids and on down the family tree. By the same token, a guy that owns a sushi restaurant in Portland probably not going to be okay with just quitting the salmon fishing for a few years until it comes back. So interesting take there, and I don't think this I think is highlights a larger problem right now in society as a whole. And I'm not doing this to go down this rabbit hole, but it's that people are just set in their ways and nobody even wants to have the conversation. It's like if we could just table this for a little bit and kick it around between a bunch of people that know what they're talking about, maybe we could come up with a compromise. Isn't that a fun word, right? Everybody gets a little bit of what they want. Everybody gives up a little bit. But it is scary because, over the course of my life, salmon, that was never something that you were really worried about being endangered or something like that. And all of a sudden, this population seems a lot smaller than it used to be, Joe. And I'm sure there's multiple causes for that and multiple ways that we could handle bringing them back. But are we even having the conversation?
Oh, I'm sure they are having it. I can tell you that, but it's a conversation I've never been invited to as a wildlife biologist. I'm just looking at it from the side. And
Right.
so, yeah,
Nobody with
it's,
mud on their boots in that meeting is what you're saying.
yeah,
I gotcha. I gotcha. All
so
right. Well, that kind of brings me to something else that I wanted to hear about from you. From your perspective in conflict resolution, like you said, going back to the beginning of the interview, you deal with a lot of, people versus wildlife in whatever manner it might be. You're just trying to resolve that conflict safely. But have you ever heard of any myths about hunting or hunters that kind of plague the public opinion that you would like to see dispelled among the general public? I ask this question because, I think anybody that has shared with a group of people that maybe you don't know everybody as well as you think you do, that, hey, I got a hunt planned, and you get one of those comments like, oh, you're one of those, or something like that. And there's some sort of negative connotation that goes along with the fact that I want to put some deer meat in my freezer each year. Any of those kind of myths or anything like that you want to go about doing your best to dispel here on the Liquid Trucking Podcast today, Joe?
over time, I've observed both from the hunter's perspective and the biologists watching the enforcement do their thing. I fear that hunters are represented by the bottom 1%, the ones that do the most damage, get the biggest headlines, and so forth. And that's troubling to me. And I've also seen that there's groups out there that represent elk, groups out there that represent fly fishermen's rights. There's groups out there for bighorn sheep, uh, guns, all sorts of things. But there's not a group out there that's talking and advocating on a platform like that is talking about what hunters are doing and representing hunters in the correct light.
Mhm.
When you try to get a committee group together and you want to get some hunters to come together and be a part of the discussion process, there's no group to go to like go, would you like to be a part of this committee and could we get your perspective from your guys' group? And I think that is something that could be done. I don't know if it would work, but I would help turn the tide of being represented by the bottom 1%. And
Sure.
because no matter what individuals say, hunting is not easy. And as even a rifle hunter, I'm in awe of individuals that can take animals with compound bows and go through and have that amount of patience and dedication to it. And that takes some time. And there are individuals out there like Steve Ranella and a few other individuals that really kind of represent the hunter and the brand and so forth. But who's going to the meetings and representing the hunter? And society might pick up on that, and I think there's a space for that to help with hunters, definitely. But it's a hard topic because hunters don't like to share their places, and
Right.
talk about things, and it's a very close knit group. And it's funny, you only draw a tag every 3 years, but we always pretend like we're going to be there every single year.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
yeah,
It
so
makes me wonder if a little bit more camaraderie it would help out a little bit, because I've always felt, especially for public land hunting, the feeling out there is overarching, and it's alone together. Like, I know you're out here, but if I even so much as see you, I'm gonna either relocate or I'm gonna stand there and stare at you until I hope that you relocate. I don't want people close by. It's a safety issue. It might move the game in a way I don't want to. There's so many different things that, yeah, hunting is kind of an isolated thing. We know there's a bunch of people out there, but it's big country. There's room for everybody. So, um, it I grew up in such a small rural place where everybody waves at you and everybody will stop to talk window to window, and that goes out the window during hunting season. You know that. You've hunted over there where I'm from. It's you still get a wave. Ain't nobody stopping to talk to divulge any information. In fact, a lot of the camps you see set up will go to some type of length to try to hide anything that they've tagged. So it's I feel like maybe, and this is just my opinion, but maybe if we all as hunters were a little more buddy buddy out there rather than, hey, get out of my spot, maybe we could organize and actually be better represented at some of these tables that you're referencing, Joe.
Yeah, and there's a little bit of a hole out there that I've noticed over time. And another big misconception is that I'll kind of say it again, hunting is not easy. The amount of dedication it takes to tune a compound bow, learn to shoot it, and then creep within 40 yards of an animal that doesn't know you're there takes a level of skill that my ADHD has never allowed me to do, you know?
Yep.
And
Yep.
so it's even when with a rifle, it's very difficult, and success rates should be holding at about 30% a year for each season. And so the odds are against you in this. And I don't think people really understand that in the non-hunting community. And plus,
Mhm.
it's not fun to go and get up at 4 in the morning and drive for 2.5 hours and go sit in the same place, and or being in the rain and snow. It takes dedication to just be able to sit and slow down, and that's hard today in today's society, even for me.
Yeah. No, it really is, man. And I have to say, a big tip of the cap to the bow hunters out there, because I'm the same way. I don't have the patience for it. In fact, on a bow hunt with some friends when I was either late junior high, early high school, I had the cow call, and it was my job to get into like a downed tree and just kind of lay there and blow the cow call. Fell asleep, Joe. Did not have the patience. It was a beautiful August day. It's like, why would I want to do anything other than take a nap in this log? So you're right, and there was another thing that you touched on there, and now of course I've lost my train of thought because I was going too fast. So if it's important, it'll get back to me. But any other misconceptions before we move on to kind of a different set of misconceptions that I want to talk about with you about hunters before we move on?
Yeah, one thing that I want to note that I've noticed over time is that humans are very powerful manipulators of their environment. I read where China, they filled up a dam there and they managed to shake the Earth's rotation.
Uh huh. Saw that.
Yeah, you go, wow, if we can do that, then just think about that power. Think about how everybody gets their new house. How does that look in the future for wildlife, and what do people want?
Yeah. What do you want out of it? That's a good point. And I did. You struck that thought back up in my mind when we're talking about misconceptions here and how hunting is not easy. I did have somebody that was a kind of a staunch anti-hunter ask me the question, why would you ever go out there and kill an animal? And I found it, first of all, it was the first time I'd ever been asked that question. And now that I answered it kind of from my heart, it's the way that I answer it if I ever get asked it again, which is few and far between. But we were talking about elk, and I said, you talked about a 30% success rate. Um, I've been hunting elk since I was 13 or 14 years old, and my success rate is so far below 30% that I don't even want to consider doing the math on it. And what I told this person was, I have so much respect for an animal that beats me every damn time. If this was football and I came out here and you blew my doors off 70-0 every time we got on the field, after 2 or 3 times, I'm not going to hate you as a rival anymore. I'm going to respect you as an adversary, respect you as somebody that just has your shit together more than I do, knows the game better than I do. And I think that as a hunter is something that a lot of non-hunters don't realize, is that I don't hate this game at all. I don't hate the animals. In fact, I very much so love the animals. I have a gigantic respect for these animals because they're so much better at this than I am, and they always will be. And so, I do like to answer it that way. It's a big respect thing for me. If I'm lucky enough to down an animal, I always spend a second just between me and it, just saying thanks. It's always been something I've done. I don't know if it does anything for anything other than me, but it really is part of it. And I think that people that don't do it have a tough time understanding that because they've never really felt that connection with the wildlife, Joe. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that from your perspective.
No, I can see that, I've had time to think about it over the years while driving, and I the reason why I kind of really enjoy it is because that animal lived a wild life and got to live free until one day I took hopefully an ethical shot and it was just plucked out of the environment. I can't say that for all the beef that I've ate, you know.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Or
And
chicken or pork or any of the rest of it.
yeah, so that's the one thing where I really keep going back to it. And maybe it's just because I've always been hunting that I have a reverence for it. And so yeah, I've learned that you just got to move on and do it for what you're going to do it for. Most of the
Absolutely.
barriers to hunting is just the actual physical limitations of being able to get out and do it, you know?
Yep. Yep.
So,
100%. Moving on here just a little bit. We got a little bit of time left here. It is your day off, so I'm not trying to keep you here forever. I'd like you to be able to go out and enjoy yourself a little bit today. But you talked about the conflict resolution being a big part of your job. And since we're on misconceptions here, any misconceptions of landowners when it comes to wildlife causing a nuisance that you'd love to see the kind of environment change on? I know that this makes up a big part of your day. You've told me a lot of the situations. I've gotten to sit down and talk to you about the conflict resolution, and you've told me multiple times in passing that is your job. You are a conflict resolver at the end of the day. So, what kind of misconceptions do some landowners have about wildlife, and how would you go about changing those if you were going to?
it's most of the time dealing with landowners is probably only 5% of it. It's dealing with in all individuals that saw a bear on a trail to there's a deer got hit and now it's in my backyard. Um, and then trying to explain to people why in the spring all of a sudden these geese that they've been able to walk around are now violently attacking them. So,
Oh man,
um,
there's a little golf course here close to my house called Fiddler's Green, and I don't go out there in March. I will not golf until April because of that, man. They are so violent.
yeah. And so it's mainly kind of describing what's going on, helping individuals interpret what it is, how to fix and resolve keeping raccoons or bats out of your house. And a lot of times, too, it's just kind of reassuring people that it's going to be okay. There's a lot of fear out there when you see a cougar for the first time or you see a bear and you want to talk to somebody about it and see what I should have done or this and that. And that ends up being a big part of it, is just kind of having those conversations with individuals where they get more comfortable as interpreting what they saw.
Hmm.
So another thing that I've really noticed has been ring cameras and security are
Hmm.
really making people aware that an animal was there, even though there wasn't a consequence. And that tends to drive a lot of anxiety and kind kind of helping individuals work through that, letting them know what they can and can't do and what they should do to try and prevent this into the future. It's a lot of information and education to humans about wildlife, and
Sure.
because trust me, I would love to just go and hold a meeting in the national forest with all the bears and go, okay, guys, this year we're not doing trash, you know?
Yeah, but they just won't listen, will they? It's
Yeah.
those greasy fried chicken legs, man. They taste real good to whoever is going after them. So,
Yeah.
that's funny, man. I think the point that you brought up about the ring cameras is something I'd never even considered, but we do. I remember 10, 15 years ago, some of the talk would be like, "Oh, I would never live in a country that has closed circuit television watching me all the time." Man, you can't go for a walk in your neighborhood without showing up on 22 different cameras anymore. And this is all something that, like, the wildlife has been there, Joe. The cougar has crossed through your backyard if you live in a rural area. The bear has gone through looking. The raccoons are always there. It's just now you know. And so you're saying it kind of gives people anxiety just to have the motion sensor kick off and go out there and see that, yep, it's a possum, but now I know that it's there and it's bugging me now. That's kind of what you're saying?
Yeah, I think it's just as we get to all this new information, it's something that kind of gets up and then it gets shared. And going out into the woods is scary. And the individuals that live on the edge of it kind of have a little bit more interactions than most.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's kind of is a fun story of I had a woman call in one time and she swore to God that she had a pterodactyl sitting in her feeder pond, you know? So I'm
And that's an area that your schooling didn't cover, I assume, is pterodactyl care, right?
Yeah, I've wanted to see a pterodactyl my entire life. So I go over there, and because I can't convince her otherwise. And we go in her house and we peek through the curtain sliding door and it's just a blue heron looking at her koi fish. And that's really learned to give me empathy for how people interpret and see things.
Sure,
So
sure. Would have
uh,
been easy to point and laugh at that moment, but that empathy really helped that day, I'm sure.
yeah, we ended up taking pictures of it, showed her a picture of it on my iPhone, and we had a good laugh, and
Good,
world's right.
good.
Yeah. So
That's great, man. Well, listen, I think that we've kind of run the gamut here. We've gotten through a lot of the questions I had prepared for you. It's been a great conversation. But before I let you go, Joe, there's something I always do on this podcast for everybody that ever joins, because I'm so thankful for your time. I want to give you the floor to say anything here. We call it final thoughts. This can be a shout out to people you think are listening. You could say hi to our liquid drivers if you want to. If you've got a message that you didn't quite get to deliver, or you want to touch on something like BearWise again, this is completely wide open. You can say anything you want, and you can take as much time as you want. Before you share your final thoughts with us today, I just want to say thank you again for the time. It's been great. Always a refreshing conversation with you, my friend, but this one has been very informational. I greatly appreciate it.
yeah, thank you for having me here. I'm a man of very few words. Honestly, allow wildlife to exist on the landscape. Trust your scientists. Allow money to be spent on it. It takes money to do it right. And be nice to everybody. Everybody needs to be nice to each other right now.
There you go. Well said. And check out bearwise.org so that you can get yourself bear proofed a little bit and figure out a better way to go about keeping yourself safe during the bear season, wherever you may be. Joe Bridges, wildlife biologist. We'll get you back on here again, man. I might strike out with the drivers again for our hunting episode next year, so I might be calling you in exactly 364 days, okay?
Yeah, not a problem. Shoot me some questions. I'm always willing to do it.
Awesome. Thanks for being here today, Joe.
Yep.
Big thanks to my hunting buddy, my cousin, and of course, your wildlife biologist, Joe Bridges there. What a cool interview. Yeah, probably not one I can score unless I've got the inside track, but given Joe and I have trudged up plenty of mountainsides together, and gotten into our own hunting hijinks as well, that was an easy one for me to score, and it was a pleasure to have him on. So again, big thanks and a tip of the cap, sharing a lot of information that I don't know, as a hunter, that type of stuff just really resonates with me. I just only want to hear about it. I only want to learn. I want to know, what do these people think about me, and how can I change their opinions? What can I do to make sure that everybody has a better hunt? Just great information there. And if black bears have ever been a problem where you're at, bearwise.org is a great place to start to learn how to kind of bear-proof things and just become bear-wise so you don't end up feeding your entire dumpster to a family of hungry black bears. What else do we got here today? Yes, I left the homework till the end. Normally I hit this right off the top today, but we had stuff to get into. Podcast.liquidtrucking.com is the website. You got to go over there and check out everything that the Liquid Trucking Podcast has to offer. We've got some scores up there. You guys can keep your eyes on some of those metrics and see how you're stacking up against some of the rest of the drivers in the fleet. We've also got every single podcast episode we've ever produced up there, as well as information about what the episodes are about and who is going to be on them. It's a great place for you to be, and you guys love it there anyway. You're always there as it is. Now, I told you at the beginning of this episode that I sort of struck out at getting you guys on this episode. And I don't know what the hell just happened with my brain right there, but let's leave that in the past. It was no good, and I struck out twice here. I'm 0 for 2 now on the day, because I also wanted you guys to send me pictures of taxidermy. I've been talking about that for the last couple of weeks, hitting on it here and there and everywhere, just trying to say, hey, if you've got them, send them on in. I still want to see them. I still want to put them up on the website so the rest of the drivers can see them. But you have to understand the reason I haven't moved on this yet. My guy Tyler's on standby. He's just waiting to start clicking buttons and moving things around on the website so we can have our taxidermy gallery. But I'm not going to turn the Liquid Trucking Podcast website into my own personal Facebook, because I've got a lot of taxidermy pictures. I've got a brand new antelope mount that I just secured last year that I would love to show you guys pictures of. I've got elk, I've got ducks, geese, deer, more antelope. There's a bobcat that might add shot. There's a Kodiak bear record on our wall back at home. I've got a lot of pictures, but I don't want to I don't need it to be up on the website just to glorify myself, okay? I will add my pictures to the gallery once the Liquid Trucking family has formed that gallery. So send me your pictures, podcast@liquidtrucking.com, or text them to me. And once we got enough of them to kind of make ourselves a little gallery that's worth checking out, I will definitely get it up there on the website. As I said, my guy Tyler Lowe, he's quick with it. He's got those website fingers, and he'll finish that thing off in a heartbeat. So get them to me as soon as you can, and we'll get them up there on the website for everybody to enjoy. And that's going to do it for us here on episode 96 of the Liquid Trucking Podcast. Very happy that you guys stopped in today. I hope that maybe next year we'll have a little bit more luck on our hunting podcast. But again, I want you to email me with your ideas. You've got 3 homework assignments today. 1, email me with your ideas about how to make the hunting episode better and something that you want to be a part of next year. 2, I need to hear those stories about when you knew you were going to be a hunter. When did it click for you? What was the hunt? What was the fish? What was the catch? What was the kill? Tell me, podcast@liquidtrucking.com, or send me a text message. And 3, I need your taxidermy pictures if we're going to do this gallery, okay? We're not just going to have a flog Marcus session where I put it all up there and show it off to you guys. I want a lot of it up there, just like we did with the road art and the tattoos. So send it in as soon as you can. That is it for today. I'm going home. Well, I'm already home. I'm going downstairs to pet my corgis. You guys have a fantastic week, what's left of it out there. Thank you for tuning in to the Liquid Trucking Podcast. We could not do this without you guys. We appreciate all the time spent listening and all the interactivity that you guys provide. And yeah, that's all I have to say for today. So as always, be safe out there, Liquid. Keep the shiny side up. We'll see you next week.
Thanks for tuning in and being the gold standard of drivers on the road. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel, and tune in next week for another episode of the Liquid Trucking Podcast.
Interested in finding out more about what it takes to bring a podcast like the Liquid Trucking Podcast to your fleet? Bulldog provides tailor-made, top-to-bottom podcast production services. We'll meet your terminal staff, connect with your drivers, and bring you the content you want your drivers to hear. Type bulldog.works into your browser to connect with us and learn more about what we can do for your fleet. That's bulldog.works for podcasts, tenacious recruiting, and more.